Okay, and welcome to today's podcast. My name's Nicholas Charles, CEO and founder of Dante, and I'm super excited to introduce good friend and professional colleague from all the way in Canada, Mr. Vik Maraj. Now, before I introduce you to him, I'm going to say a little blurb about him. As I said, blow a little bit of air up our up his beep. But let me introduce you to him. He's not only is he a good friend and a great mind, but he's an original thinker, a speaker with the real-time battle-tested experience that comes with being a trusted advisor to some of the world's most influential leaders. He has coached and consulted CEOs of the Fortune 500, in addition to premiers, presidents, and prime ministers of countries. You've got to share some stories there, Vic. He has worked with pro athletes, celebrities, and even an astronaut. Wow. He's been the driving force behind the growth of leading global companies, facilitated billion-dollar collaborations, restored projects and organizations on the brink of failure, and also volunteers his time and volunteered over 10,000 hours to coach local and global not-for-profit leaders and citizens to effectively address hunger, sex trafficking, war, poverty, climate, colonialism, and other critical issues to humanity. So, welcome, Vic. And also in his spare time, he's the co-founder of Unstoppable as well, and has also done a really cool TED talk called Walk, which I've seen. I thoroughly enjoyed it. But most importantly, he's a really cool guy. So, welcome, Vic.
All right, come on. Thanks. It's a good thing, Nicholas, you asked Chat GPT to come up with just a great intro. Isn't that great when we did that?
I actually copied and pasted it, believe it or not,
Okay.
from your website.
Oh, okay, good.
It's actually on your website. It was the official speakers of Canada.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, who do you think wrote that stuff? Okay,
Yeah,
so
I,
to
I'm
come
I'm sure
clean.
I'm sure you did, but I thought, you know what, that reads really well. So why change
Yeah,
it?
yeah. No, great. Thanks for having me. It's
You're
awesome.
welcome. And today we're talking about the psychology of wealth. Your background, is it fair to say, is in psychology, but that doesn't really do you justice because I
Yeah.
remember when we first had a conversation together, you said, quote and unquote, psychology is dead. Now,
Well, that was
share
a
with us
bit.
what you mean.
I get it. That was a bit brash, and I take that back. Psychology is the most pervasive discipline when it comes. Human beings go to psychology first to deal with what they would consider their mental conundrums, and that's the place where we've gotten used to generating most of the answers, for tips, coping strategies, and um, I think it's smart of you to title the podcast The Psychology Wealth because it's name brand recognized. My work is more in the world of coaching, and I coach from a different location called ontology. But I don't want to. This is not an academic conversation, so I'm only going to say that word once, and then we're going to get into it in a more practical way, right? But
Makes sense.
uh, Yeah, yeah, and I'm trained in negotiation and crisis management, and I designed the bit of the hostage negotiation curriculum for the Canadian National Police Force, and led that, and emotional intelligence, and blah blah blah. People in my field, there's no school for us, so part of it is put together what you see as effective in making other people effective. So that's me.
No, I absolutely love that. And we're going to bring it back to the psychology of wealth. And why, in your opinion, do you think there's so much emotion around wealth, predominantly inherited wealth? You're
Yeah,
seeing problems with second and third generation wealth. There's that blown up statistic where, 70% of families will lose all their wealth within just 2 generations and 90% will lose it within 3 generations. Why do you think that's the case?
yeah. Well, let me say why it's not the case. The standard reason is they mismanage the money. Okay, and that's true. People mismanage the money. That's true.
Well, clearly,
But how come?
eventually.
Eventually, exactly. But okay, well, how come? I mean, their parents didn't seem to pretty good with money. What happened to the next generation? And for me, the answer always comes back. Well, going back to your very first question, what's the deal with money? Well, people have an identity. So money is probably one of the biggest factors in life that people identify with. People identify with their partner. People identify with their car. People identify with their height, their hair, their skin color, their nation. They're patriots. They identify. You identify with England, don't you?
And Cyprus and
And
Greece.
Cyprus.
Yeah, we're a
Right?
mixed up island here.
You are. Yeah.
Good
So
old
you're
Great Britain.
dually identified.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
of course I get it.
And- yeah, yeah. And I'm identified as Canadian and so on. But see, the biggest thing when the way people are built, they identify with money. They don't have money. They are their money. So as their money goes, so they go mentally. If the money's going up, they're happy. If the money's going down, they're sad. By the way, that's irrespective of how much they got. There's a
Interesting.
guy named
Okay.
Robert Reich in the 70s who was interviewed. He said, look, what I've discovered is that it's not a function of how much people have. Is it going up or is it going down dictates their mood. So the short answer, Nicholas, is people identify with money and their kids have a different identification with it. And their
Oh, interesting.
identification with that money their parents have is that's not my money. Well, that's a very different relationship to money now.
No, no, of course. And is that the real reason why sometimes there's an element of guilt with inherited wealth? Like, I don't deserve this money that's been given to me. And therefore, if you don't
Yeah.
deserve it, you want to get rid of it as quick as possible.
Well, come on, you can't see, but that absolutely that's one of them. That's one of them. That's why people lose their money as fast as they can, because unconsciously, as you said, their conversation is, I don't deserve this. But the that I don't deserve it is, you know how there are these Russian dolls, little one,
Yeah, yeah, of
little,
course. Yeah.
okay, right? I don't deserve this is a little kind of middling Russian doll. That the bigger mummy doll, okay, of that doll that I don't deserve this fits in is a conversation that many kids, all people have, but the kids of wealthy parents particularly have it. And again, this is everybody has this conversation. And that conversation is called I'm not enough or not enough. Okay. And, just the only piece of preparation I did for this, okay, aside from comb my hair, okay, is I did go to one of my favorite books that has done a lot of informing me on money. Okay. And I want to read you a small quote on the not enough.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. This comes from Lynn Twist, okay, who wrote a book called The Soul of Money. Okay.
Oh,
And it's called
beautiful title.
Transforming Your Relationship to Money and Life. I pulled this out. There's three quotes, but I want to give you this one quote. It's just brilliant. For me, and for many of us, our first waking thought of the day is, I didn't get enough sleep.
Oh, so true.
Okay. The next thought is, I don't have enough time. Now, notice the common word, enough. I don't have enough time. Now, whether true or not, that thought of not enough occurs to us automatically before we even think to question or examine it. We spend most of the hours of the days of our lives hearing, explaining, complaining, or worrying about what we don't have enough of. Before we even sit up in bed, before our feet touch the floor, we're already inadequate, already behind, already losing, already lacking something. And by the time we go to bed at night, our minds are racing with a litany of what we didn't get or didn't get done that day. We go to sleep burdened by these thoughts, and wake up to that reverie of lack. This internal condition of scarcity, this mindset of scarcity leaves us living in our very hearts a jealous life, a life of greed, of prejudice, of arguments with life that it's not enough. Now, it's pretty poetic, right? But for
But
me,
it's so true. And I can see the reason stemming behind that, but I'd like to hear your thoughts about why and I think it's a human problem. Why we think we lack dot dot dot. You mentioned
yeah,
time, sleep,
okay.
money.
Okay, you ready? You
Not
ready for a
enough.
trip down every human being's memory lane, every human being's memory lane? Here's one of the answers we propose to that question. How come? How come such lack? Okay. Well, if you think back to a kid, and by the way, I do want to keep this in the framework of wealth, okay? But as you can tell, it's a human problem, as you said. So take what I'm saying and amplify it tenfold for wealthy families. And I've worked with a lot of wealthy families and I've seen it firsthand. But this is for any family. If you look at a kid growing up from 0 to 4 to 5 to 6, all kids hear is don't do that, don't do that. No. How many times I have to tell you? And you're a parent, I know. I met your wonderful daughter.
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Christina, yep.
Okay, but see, kids, you and I as kids, her as a child, all children, and particularly for children of wealthy families, majority of the conversations they hear as a child is don't do this, da 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 da. How many times I tell you, be more like your brother. I got it, I got it, I got all A's, but this one I got a B. Well, how come you didn't get it? See, it's all a comparison. It doesn't take long for a human being that's about this tall to come up with a conclusion. They can't do much right. Now, parents don't intend that.
No, of course not.
Nobody intends that. But
There's no instruction manual on being a parent.
there's
Sad.
no instruction. And the only reason you and I are perpetuating these conversations of don't do that, do this, and then I'll ground you or punish you or reward you is because we were handled that way. And the reason we were handled that way by them, our parents, is because they were handled that way. And they were handled that way because their parents.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
repeated pattern.
Yeah, there's
You
no
learn from
bad
your
guy.
parents. You learn from
It
your
is.
experiences, don't you? So,
That's what's handed down generationally is these patterns of behavior and parenting. So if you take a look, you'll see that and I coach thousands of people, not one adult didn't have that childhood where they wound up with some conclusion upon examination about themselves that centers around some form of inadequacy, some form of not enough, some form I can't get it right, right?
yeah, unbelievable.
And
So true.
and
I'm reflecting now, but yeah, you're 100% correct.
and nobody examines it this way.
And that
They,
resonates in our subconscious, and we don't know why. Because
yeah,
because you take that into your adult life, and you're not really sure as to why you think or act in a certain manner, but it all stems from your childhood.
all of it. And that's totally consistent with psychology. But see, the key part of that is the brain is unsatisfied with the conclusion that you're not enough. So the brain then kicks into gear, creating ways to be enough. And the wealthy families and business people I tend to coach, one of their strategies that they invented as a kid to be enough is being driven to accomplish. High level athletes have the same compensation. But what people I coach notice is as soon as they accomplish something magnificent, it's insufficient and they must feed again. They must accomplish again and again, and they must make more money and then more money and then more money. Why? Because they can't see all of that is an attempt to fill the void of not enough. But it's never enough.
No, I get it. But how does that then fit in with someone who's inherited wealth? Doesn't that
Well,
have the opposite effect of destroying their ambition, creating a chasm or vacuum within their field of discovering their purpose? Because now, what do? They don't need to work clearly because they've just inherited a whole load of money. So what now? And does that create
yeah,
a different type of void? And again, does it exaggerate the "I'm not enough"
I
syndrome?
think
You can call it a
you
syndrome.
took the words out of my mouth when you said exaggerate. See, again, those kids, people who inherit something, already they have their version of not enough. Okay. And every generation does this to the next generation. The baby boomers, had to work like this, that, and the other to make it. So when they raise their kids, they don't want their kids to work as hard as they did. So the pendulum swings the other way. Okay. And then that generation parents their kids in a way that they don't want their kids to go through what they went through. So the pendulum swings the other way. Okay.
Wow.
So
Okay.
so if you watch kids who are everybody has a not enoughness to them, whether acknowledged or not. It's in the background, as you said, subconsciously. So now so I watch my mom, I watch my dad, I watch what they did. They're kicking butt. They earned this money. They made this money. They're tireless. They're driven. They're ambitious. They have integrity. And then there's me. And then there's me. In comparison to, well, talk about a chasm of inadequacy. And most wealthy parents or accomplished people, they don't, in my experience, tend to that chasm between them and their kids. That's just there for the kid. You don't need it to be there. You don't want it to be there. You don't promote it being there. But when a kid looks up at a highly accomplished person that's parenting them, they can't help but interpret that gap as I'm inadequate. And it's not tended to enough. So that kid grows up in comparison to always comparing. I mean, human beings compare all the time anyway.
Yeah, that's true. It's a horrible trait.
And the comparisons never end well because you can always find somebody better than you, prettier than you,
Yeah,
stronger
depending
than
on what
you,
you're using as your comparative, but yeah, 100%.
depending on what you're
Because
using.
everyone is unique. And so, how do you break that vicious cycle then? How, as a parent, I'm sure lots of parents are going to be watching this, how, as a parent, able to break the habit of forcing the you're not enough to the next
Yeah.
generation?
Yeah. The
And
how you break it, it takes number one, a kind of first of all, communication. You know, in
oh,
real
yeah,
estate, they say
magic word.
location, location, location. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, in family dynamics with wealthy anybody, it's communication, communication, communication. Okay. But not any ordinary communication. The communication that works in the families that I've worked with that has totally dismantled this paradigm is is communication whereby the big person reveals to the little person their own sense of inadequacy, their own sense of not enoughness, their own struggles and what they deal with, even though they appear to have it handled. Okay. Now I'm being really quick about it. It's not so simple, but I'm putting a placeholder, what we would call an authentic conversation, where I reveal myself to you, my son, my daughter, but not like a weakness, like a part of being human. Okay. Like a sharing between us so that you destroy some notion that I got it handled, that I'm perfect,
got it. Yeah,
that
you're breaking the
that I've
myth.
arrived, right? That I've
Yeah.
arrived somewhere. I haven't arrived anywhere. I deal with being human every day. Fine, I got some money. But I'll tell you how many times my money goes up, I'm happy. My money goes down, I'm sad. I, like everybody else, I'm a bit of a slave to my identity. But see, once my kid starts to get that kind of conversation, they're like, oh, I'm not the only one. You mean you worry about yourself too? Yeah. See, now a channel opens up between parent and child that's so remarkable. All of a sudden you're not alien to me on a pedestal or something to compare myself to, aspire to become your perfection. Oh my God, we're, I know you're my parent, but in this conversation, something like this happened.
Yeah, you essentially, especially if your child puts you on a pedestal, you got to almost bring yourself down and show to your child that yeah, you're not Superman or Superwoman. You're actually a human being. You have your own faults, and it's important to almost you're saying it's important to share those faults with your children so they appreciate that you're not perfect.
Yeah. And in the work I do, it's not even faults. It's just being human.
Well, of course, because we're imperfect. We're perfectly imperfect.
I'll go one step further, Nicholas, and this is kind of the this takes work. This takes coaching, okay? But obviously I've been through and still am going through my own coaching while I coach because it's authentic for me to be coached while I coach so that I've never got some. So there's a humility to my existence. Okay. Versus I've come down from the mountain, everybody. And if you just be like me, nobody likes that, right? But I'll go further. See, there it is possible to go back in time for every adult and see the moments, because there are these moments that are defining for one's relationship to money and wealth. Okay. Now, this is non-psychological. I know it sounds psychological, but when I say moments, well, here's the best way to illustrate it. Okay. I'm going to tell you something for about 2.5 minutes about me. Okay.
Far
Okay.
away.
Okay. That defined my relationship, one of my relationships to money. Okay. Okay. So in North America, McDonald's was created in North America. Okay. So when I was, I think 16, okay, it was a hot summer day. Me and my three other friends are in line at McDonald's. Okay. And the place is packed. There's like 3 or 4 lineups. You know how it is at a McDonald's counter. Okay. So we're in one of the lineups and we're here to get an ice cream cone. Okay.
Okay.
And back in the day, it's 25 cents
Yes, it
Canadian.
was. Yeah, it was the same in England.
20,
Yeah,
okay.
20p,
Okay.
20 pence. Remember?
Exactly.
Yeah, in my school days,
Remember, right?
I was there as well.
Exactly. Like, what happened? Okay. So we're in line. Okay. And we come up to the counter, and I'm first in line. Okay. I'm first in line. And my 6'5" friend, Harbir, is in one line, and Joey is the next. And it was quite an eclectic group, actually. My Persian friend, Bobak, he's in the back. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So we're
Okay.
four in a row. And I go up and I have a dollar bill. Okay. For those listening who are of a different generation, there's these things called dollar bills, okay? Or pound notes, right? So I go up and I got my dollar bill, and the person says, okay, what do you want? I said, I want an ice cream cone. And she says, great. So she takes my dollar, gives me 75 cents change, and she goes, ice cream. Okay. Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Bobak from the very back of the line, and he's a jokester, but like terrifying jokester. He
Okay.
runs up, he goes to the front line, he goes, what? He goes, you had a dollar? You could have bought all of us a cone. You only bought you a cone. And he goes, he only bought himself a cone. I remember that to this day, okay?
Wow.
Because unexamined, okay, it was like, and we laughed and I was embarrassed and
Yeah, of course.
but I'll tell you, Nicholas, when I examined it more closely in terms of investigating my relationship to money, it was surprising. In that moment, I decided how I made sense of all this is, oh my God, I'm cheap. Oh my God, I'm cheap. I, and it showed up like a realization. Now it's not a realization, it's a conclusion about myself. I'm like, oh my God, I must be cheap. Why, yeah, why didn't I spend that? See, all of a sudden this doubt and all that, and then I'm like, oh God, I must be cheap is the conclusion. Okay.
Yeah, I get it. From one
From
small incident.
from that moment on, I tell you, I have been overly generous. I tip
Oh,
more than 20%. Oh, you want something here? I got it. I got supper. I got. Now, when I looked at that, why am I? And I'm never fully satisfied by my own generosity. There's like something yuck about it, right? And until I saw this, I'm like, oh my God, I spent my whole damn life compensating, trying to prove I'm not. I'm not. I swear I'm not, Nicholas. I'm not. I got supper again. I'm not. Now you're not accusing me of being cheap. I'm accusing me of being cheap.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Can you get that?
Yeah, of course I do.
Now
How
you
one small
extrapolate that
incident just sits in your subconscious and creates the way you act without your knowledge. Just sits there burning away. I'm cheap. I'm cheap.
quietly,
Cheap. Wow.
quietly, making my business decisions, making my tipping
Yeah.
decisions, making a lot of decisions for me. And everyone he has at least 2 to 3 of these moments where they decide their relationships that they don't know they decided. And it runs in the background, shaping their relationship to wealth, money, their kids, inheritance. And until it's uncovered, it's like you said, you and I are on autopilot, but we don't know. It's more mechanistic. We think it's always a function of our free will. No.
Love that. Well, let's take it back a step. How would you, we keep mentioning this word wealth, but how would you define what wealth actually is?
Oh, geez. Way to hit me with a crazy question.
It's a
This
very,
wasn't planned.
it's a deliberately open-ended question, but I've asked it so many times in so many talks that I do,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the answer fascinates me.
No doubt. Well, let me just say, since you asked me that question, and I don't have an immediate answer. I went right back to, God, I'm not enough. Why do you have me on this show? I mean, what am I going to say?
Love it.
Maybe I should just give him a bunch of money and then he'll let me go.
No chance. I want to catch you unaware.
Yeah, exactly. Wealth. Well, look, I mean, for me, wealth is, I mean, m money's not wealth, number one. Money's just money. If I had 10,000 chairs, would I be wealthy? I don't think so.
Yeah,
If I had $10,000, am I wealthy? No. If I had 10,000 blades of grass, so no. Wealth is, it sounds a little kumbaya the way I'm going to say it, but you can't say it any other way. Wealth is wealth is a way of being. See, I'm actually working it out as I'm talking it out to you.
but
Yeah,
that's what it
wealth is
means, by the way. It actually
what's
means
that?
well-being. I love the way you mentioned it because wealth actually means the original term of wealth means
Ah,
well-being.
well,
And you just said it.
look at the big head on me,
There
huh?
you go. You see? You're smarter than you think.
I'm enough.
You're definitely enough. You're more than
Yeah. Yeah, wealth, what I would say is a state of being. So and it is, and it's funny because I hear people use this term abundance. Okay. I want to say something a bit silly sounding. I find that people who need to use the word abundance, like an abundance mindset, and I get it. I really do get the place it comes from. Like there's plenty to go around, don't need to clutch everything, right? I really do get that. But real wealth, like a way of being, is simply I'm enough. I'm not enough. I don't need to be more. See, more is just to compensate for less. Why do I need more? Why do I need abundance? To compensate for the lack? No.
That's true. Yeah.
People who are truly settled and in this term wealthy, they're simply enough.
No, I love that. Absolutely. Well, based on that, therefore, why is the focus, and I'm going to slightly criticize the traditional advisor, should we call them? And I'm talking, I'm pulling them all together, the professional advisors, so your accountants, your lawyers,
Mm,
trustees, your wealth advisors, etc. Why
yes.
has the focus moved from well-being, wealth, to
Yeah.
purely financial capital, to
Mm,
transferring the financial capital to the next generation,
yeah.
whether it's in clever structures, brilliant tax planning.
Yeah.
We've seen it, or trying to control the financial capital beyond your grave through trusts. Um,
Yeah.
why? If we're saying now that wealth is much more, it's about being enough, it's about well-being,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
therefore has the professional industry focused predominantly on financial capital?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. Well, for me, I mean, it's an initially simple answer that requires expansion. But the simple answer is uh, all of what you said is tangible.
Okay.
I work with across the world with in in your self-aggrandizing introduction of me. I work with lots of different companies, but it's the same thing in companies. People deal with it's easier to deal with what's material and tangible. So they will change the org structure in a company, right? Your background is in finance, you've worked with companies. See, it's easier to change the org chart than deal with the root of the problem.
Oh, 100%. Because you can see it. It's tangible, like you said.
So wealth is the same way. So you got all these advisors, and I don't quite honestly, Nicholas, think there's anything nefarious going on.
No,
It's
of
just
course not. It's how
right
it's also how they're trained as well. I mean, me as
how
an
they're trained.
accountant,
Yeah,
my background as accountancy, I was trained in accountancy, finance, and taxation. It's
yeah,
what I
I get
know.
it. Totally. Look, I have a master's in molecular biology genetics. Okay. I get like if I can't count it and measure it, get it away from me. Right? All this soft skill stuff. See, that's how I wound up like that too, with this kind of like structured, left brainy, measurable. But see, I think Einstein had the quote, all the things you can count don't really count. It's what you can't count that counts. How are you going to count conflict? How are you going to count empathy? How are you going to count compassion? How are you going to count integrity? How are you going to count a profound sense of ownership and responsibility? You can't count that.
No,
So people go to what they can count, but it's obviously inadequate because as you structure all the trusts and the wills and the finances, but you don't pay attention to the young people about to deal with this world that they're so ill prepared for emotionally, psychologically, ontologically. Uh, it's inadequate.
yeah, no, I fully get it. So to conclude, I mean, just to reiterate that point, how valuable, therefore, is it for a parent to transfer all the wealth to the next generation by focusing on that magic word
Being,
communication,
yes,
communication, communication.
yeah,
You said it three times, um, and focusing on that in order to preserve their financial legacy
yeah.
through their next generation. Because at the end of the day, no one's going to take it with them. I joke and say, the Egyptians tried it by burying themselves with all their gold, but what happened? It just got stolen. Can't take it with you. Your legacy is
Yeah,
essentially the next generation and the generation after that. So therefore, how important, and I want to really want to push this point, but how important is a
yeah,
parent or a grandparent or a member of the family to pass on the human and intellectual capital or the wisdom behind the wealth?
yeah, yeah. Well, look, I mean, I want to say it's everything. See, the wealth is the monetary wealth is peripheral. I know that's like sacrilege to say for people with monetary wealth, but it's really peripheral to what every parent wants to their kid. Every parent wants their kid to win in life.
Of course.
Of course,
What's
right?
the point
Of
of being a
course,
parent if you
money,
didn't?
if you didn't, right? And of course, money is a powerful aid for that. But money can also be, as you mentioned, a curse. It's a burden. It's so without what you're saying, the majority of the attention being on what is our dynamic? What in our relationship and beyond our relationship that did you come up with as your identity, my son, my daughter, so that when this flood of cash comes your way, who you are is so a match for what you're getting. You're a match. You know what I mean? You're schooled, you're mature, you're wise, you're emotionally intelligent. You are awake to your demons in a way that I wasn't as your parent, right? But somehow I made it. I've given you the advantage, and that's why, by the way, I love our relationship, Nicholas, because with Dante and what you're up to, just encountering you is so damn refreshing because you're not simply about the accountancy and the structures and you are so holistically competent.
I like that. I might take that from you. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Holistically
Yeah.
competent. Beautiful.
Yeah, like you get it. And you can draw upon your own experience as somebody who's engaged with money, been with money, been in a family that may have lost money. You you had the opportunity to wake up to the holistic nature of it and be so awake to it that you put this sucker together, right, this platform to include people like me, uh, because without the whole, it's really half-ass.
No, I agree. I couldn't agree anymore. I mean, what we say is that yes, that the finance is important, it can't be ignored, but it's only half of a circle. So I say
Yes,
the other half is the wisdom behind the wealth, and that creates the full cycle of wealth in itself that needs to be transferred to the next generation, which is unfortunately half of it is sadly ignored because we don't know what we don't know. And if our trusted advisors are focusing on the structures and the tax and the assets under management, well, guess what? We're going to listen to them, aren't we?
exactly.
But what we're trying to achieve here is to help families understand how important it is, what needs to be implemented in order to successfully transfer the wealth, and I'm going to say wealth rather than financial capital, to the next
Yeah,
generation. And you
yeah.
clearly pointed out that every parent wants the best for their children. So the question there is, why does that not happen? Why do you see time and again in the media, children of wealthy families either, having
Yeah,
drug problems, whether
yeah, addiction.
struggling with depression
Yeah,
or addictive
yeah,
behavior, whether it's, I mentioned drugs, alcohol,
yeah.
prostitution, gambling. You see this time and time again, and even worse, that can actually it can even escalate to full-blown litigation and familial battles.
Oh,
So
just wait till the
how
will. Yeah,
how does it get to that stage?
yeah, yeah. Well, just wait till the will gets probated. Then the games begin, right? I want this, I deserve that, you don't. All that is simmering under the surface,
Yes,
as you said. Yeah, well, look, it's because it's not tended to, because it's hard. The simple answer, dealing with family dynamics is hard. It's just hard work. And most people see it as a weakness, maybe, or we don't need you. We're fine, like a kind of a bravado, a facade, that it would be weak to be coached. Or, and and I also get it to some extent because when you're wealthy, there are a lot of people that can be sycophants of your wealth. They want to get in and help you and this and that. And there's an appropriate gatekeeping for
I fully get that.
celebrities, wealthy
Yeah, of
people.
course.
It's
It, it,
totally appropriate.
it comes with the money, unfortunately. You
It
will
does.
attract bad
Yeah.
people. And I
Yeah.
say bad in
Yeah.
inverted commas,
Yeah.
people that want to take advantage of you.
Yeah. How can I exactly? So that's really appropriate. The problem is that I mean, it's sometimes that gate is a little too tightly shut and it keeps out the kind of advice and resources that would actually make a difference. Um, like really getting in there. But I mean, money is a touchy thing. If you let somebody into the house, like a me or a you really are kind of like opening the kimono, and it takes a high degree of trust. It's a high trust environment. So, that it's not easy to establish that relationship. Right. And then the advisor, like a me, you know, the other part of the problem is the advisors. I'm going to go back to let's just lump us all into this category called advisors. The propensity for the advisor to want to retain that working relationship with their wealthy patron who cuts them a check is so strong that maybe I'm not going to tell you the truth, the hard truth that you need to hear. So even if I am trusted as an advisor, I've got to deal with my own humanity. Do I
That's a very good
risk my
point.
paycheck to tell you what you paid me to tell you? Or does my own humanity get in the way?
When you say
So
humanity, I'm talking fears.
fears, my own scarcity,
Yeah.
my own, oh my
I'm not
God, if I
enough.
tell yeah, I'm not, what if I tell you the truth and you fire me?
Yeah.
Right? So there's so many pitfalls that somebody who has some money can get into. A, not letting the right people in because I don't trust you. B, having the right people come in, but now they don't have the maturity to tell you the truth. Or you, as the wealthy patron, you don't have the maturity to hear the truth.
Yes.
So look at how many barriers there are.
No, you're right. It isn't. It is difficult, and also dealing with conflict within the family dynamic can be very tough, can be very emotive. I've seen this with a lot of successful entrepreneurs and business owners. When they go
Mm,
to work, they're the boss. Like no one says no to them. When they
yeah,
go home, they're not the boss at home. The kids will say, will say no to them, disrespect them even. Maybe the
yeah,
spouse will do the same.
yeah,
Welcome to my world, mum, dad. You ain't the boss
yeah,
here. You ain't the boss in this household, and
yeah,
that's hard to take in, especially if you've got a significant ego, shall we say.
yeah,
It's difficult to take.
yes.
Um,
Which,
this is your field. I'm going to ask you this question:
yeah.
How how easy is it? I mean, let me just take a step back. At what stage should a parent seek advice, and when should they make the effort with their family, whether it's, I'm going in both directions, children, parent, grandparent,
Yeah,
grandkids,
yeah,
siblings, etc. Because it can be very easy to say, there's something wrong with you. I can't help you. Go and see the doctor. Go and see your
uh, uh, uh,
psychologist. I'm going to
uh,
now pawn you off because I just can't get through to you. I can't communicate with you. You never
yeah,
listen. Dot dot dot.
yeah, yeah,
The list is endless, shall we say? At what stage when do you get the right balance between making the effort and seeking advice?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good question. Well, my answer is before you have kids, because all of those patterns are there already. When we have kids, it just drives up the pattern in a new way, you know. So, look, it's real simple. It's just, I'm not a mechanic, okay? I have a car, I go get a mechanic. I have a boo-boo on my knee, I go to my physiotherapist or my doctor. But the problem with humans, you and I, is that we believe that just because we're alive and have been around the planet for a couple decades, we're experts on being human.
Yeah, guess
So
what?
don't tell
No
me
chance.
about me. You don't know me. I know me, really. So so it's that ego, as you said, Nicholas, or that kind of veil of what do you know that I don't know about me that often prevents people from exploring what someone like me could offer who spent decades dealing with what is it to be human, specifically around money or families or conflict, as you said. What are the predictable patterns? Where do they emerge? Where do they limit? Where do they have you win? But see, that's the problem with humanity. I'm not seen as a mechanic. Often. I mean, some people have the maturity. They, oh man, you get a hold of that guy. He's good at what he does, or she's good at what she does. Because everybody's apparently an expert on being human. Or they go to another field, which is mostly the psychotherapeutic model, which they'll get some great explanations, like you're the middle child or whatever. But so the short answer is immediately go go get somebody who at least explore what they have to say about this, right? But our human arrogance often prevents it. It did for me for years.
Well, I just love the fact that you're an expert in your field, and you mentioned to us just now that even you get coached, which I
Yeah,
love. So
yeah,
we're in a world where, and I believe this, that if you stop learning, you're dying.
mm,
you stop learning, you start dying, in my opinion. You never know everything. It's impossible. We're never going to be on this planet long enough to learn everything there is to learn. And sometimes you need to take a step back and understand and appreciate where your weaknesses are, where your faults lie, and that there are people out there that can help. Because guess what? You're not an expert. You might even be, the best CEOs in the world, they get help. Elon
Yeah.
Musk didn't build Tesla all by himself, didn't build
No.
SpaceX by himself. Yes, brilliant business owner, brilliant
Yeah.
entrepreneur, but
Yeah.
even he gets help. Yeah. No one
Yeah.
does it on their own.
Yeah.
And there's this
Yeah.
misnomer that, oh, I can do it all by myself.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
really can't. You really
Yeah.
can't. But I
Yeah.
love the
Yeah.
idea. So get help is what we're trying to say. And I mean,
Yeah.
again, that because you mentioned it is quite difficult because it does involve an element of trust. I mean, a serious amount of trust.
Yeah.
So what does it take to build a team of trusted advisors around you?
Yeah.
Understand, appreciate your journey in life, whatever that may be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's a simple answer. I mean, to build any, to get to cobble together any group of people that you trust all of them, aside from having gone through 40 years of friendship from middle school, right? Maybe having gone through 40 years of friendship through middle school onwards is maybe the only bulletproof way to establish trust in a group of people. Other than that, it's, in my experience, it's a case by case kind of deal. And but I'll tell you, the first thing that a person has to deal with is their lack of trust. So you can't even investigate whether this person is trustworthy for me or not if you don't first deal with your history of being burnt.
That's also a very good point. Yeah, I get that. Yeah,
You
100%.
know,
Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
look, and just a really simple example would be, when I was in grade 9 and I crossed the dance floor to ask Lisa to dance
Yeah.
amongst her friends, and I went halfway across the dance floor and I heard them giggle. In that moment, I decided I'm a loser. You're a buffoon. Why did you let your friends convince you? They don't like you. They think you're funny looking. What an embarrassment that you're in the middle of this dance floor. Everybody's looking at you. I turned around, backed up, went back to the wall where all the other guys were plastered. But see, that was one of my moments. I made a decision. Don't do that again. So the next time I encounter a girl, because I was 14, I don't trust her.
Wow. Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that is.
But
That
if
is.
you
Because we
ask
can all relate to that. We've all got a similar.
every boy will relate to it, but
Oh,
they
yes.
don't see the mechanism underneath the wariness, the lack of confidence, the careful, calculating, gauging how safe that person is. Now you take that and you multiply that through 100 different occasions in our lifetime, and with money, most of us have gotten burned somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
So you put all those little incidents together and all those conclusions we've made, it's hard to let anybody in now, much less somebody purporting to have some wherewithal to help us deal with our money, help us deal with our children, help us deal with what's most precious, most vulnerable, much less let somebody in to deal with that stuff. I mean, it's near impossible to let anybody in.
No, I get it, but at the end of the day, you need to get advice.
You do.
So
You do.
how do you I mean, what are your tips on picking a great advisor then? Is there such a thing? Can we give tips?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, the people who coach me, I mean, I trust them with my life, right? There's a number of people in my network over time that, man, I trust,
So how
right? I
did you
trust.
okay, what was the process then of you choosing your coach?
Well, I look for a couple things. I look for authenticity, number one. I'm like, okay, is this human being real with me, or are
Love
they
that.
kind of holding themselves out to be an expert that has got it all handled? I don't like that. I like a human being that's built their experience, built a very effective firm or consultancy or advisory or a process, but there's something about them that's still pretty humble, pretty vulnerable. So it's kind of a paradox, I guess, for me. It's like, can you show me you still in reality deal with being human at your level while giving me the evidence of your success? In other words, the fact you're still dealing with your vulnerabilities and fears and ego and obviously hasn't stopped you from being successful, but that you're successful, you don't pretend you got it handled. So I'm a real
Oh yeah.
kind of stick in the mud for that union of success, but authenticity and humility within that person. And there's not
Perfect.
a lot of people I find that meet that criteria. But
No.
if I do find them, boy, it's not a stretch to trust them.
Oh, I love that. So it's almost authority. Do they know what they're doing? With
Yeah.
authenticity.
Yes. Simple way to say it. Yep.
Yeah, beautiful. And that can be utilized across any advisor, really.
I think so. I That's what I found. If as I'm talking it out with you, I can see the actually the mechanic I have is like that. Going back to the mechanic for my car, I'm like, yeah, that person he's really that way. I just came from the dentist, and you were saying, well, are you gonna be frozen? Can you do this podcast, right?
Yeah.
And my dentist is my long-term friend, but his new associate, Betty, she's awesome. She's awesome. She just and as I think about her as I talk to you about this, she is insanely competent. She's like realigning my mouth, okay?
Wow.
But man, is she humble. And it's like, like you said, this is a characteristic of most people I like much and trust.
Yeah, I love that. And again, for any advisor watching this podcast, I think the message has got to be authentic, be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that comes with honesty as well. I think that's tied into authenticity. Be honest about
Yeah.
your authenticity or be authentically honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
I'm mixing around words here, but you get
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying.
But I'm Canadian, so I'll tell you one pitfall, and I don't think it's just Canadian because I've also worked in Eastern Europe and is there too. There's being authentic, okay, but there's also being inauthentically humble,
Oh,
which is this
explain that.
kind of downplaying and this kind of, oh, it was nothing, and oh, I got lucky, or no, like when you introduced me, okay, I was a little bit inauthentically humble, okay. There's a dance between being humble, like really like, yeah, look, acknowledging the people that were part of your success. That's really authentically humble. Or
Yeah.
at least one way of being authentically humble. And then there's this kind of, and I'm gonna indict us as Canadians, downplaying our effectiveness or downplaying our ability to help. Oh, look, it was nothing. And that may not be in your part of the world, Nicholas, or in the States, but it's also a pitfall not to let people know that you're effective without being arrogant. It's also a
Oh,
pitfall to
no,
not do,
I agree.
right?
I mean, I've
Yeah.
been at fault for that same sort of thing where,
Mm.
people give me credit and I almost back it off. And I'm like, why am I
Right.
doing that? Like, accept the gratitude. Like, yes, I
Except,
did do a good
yeah.
job. Thank you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Again, I haven't looked too much into it in terms of the depth wise, but you're right. I've caught myself doing that sometimes. Oh,
Yeah.
it's nothing. Well, actually, no, it was something because I put a lot of blooming effort into that, and I'm
Well,
glad
come
you
on.
recognize it. Thank you very much.
That's an authentic kind of response, right?
Yeah.
Because look, you don't see 3-year-olds when you say, "Oh my God, I love your Lego house." Oh, it was nothing. No, you see a 3-year-old going, "Thank you. Here's I did it. And then I put the red block. They do what you said, but adults don't do that, and it's totally inauthentic. By the way, it goes back to not enough. Because if you give me a compliment, most people are brutal with compliments. They've got to deflect them or downplay them. Because to accept the compliment is to accept I'm enough.
Ooh, never thought of that. That's interesting. Yes. That makes
But
sense.
subconsciously, I will reject your compliment to keep my not enough intact. Thank you very much.
To keep my bullshit story going,
Exactly.
essentially. I've got to justify
Essentially.
it because I've
That I
been
don't
living
know I
that way for
have.
years.
Yeah, that I don't know the incidents. All I know is I'm bad at compliments.
Oh, that's so true. That's really good. Love that. Yeah, I definitely can resonate with
It
that.
was really good, wasn't it, Nicholas?
Yes,
See
it
how good I
was.
am at compliments?
I'm complimenting you, so take it. That was very good. No, I fully get it. Let's go to
Yeah,
business.
yeah.
And there is emotion attached to business, especially family businesses. And at what stage should the, tend to be the head of the family or the head of the business realize that it's time to pass on the baton, whether that's to the next generation or whether it's to have the conversation of who is going to succeed them in the family business or who is capable of succeeding them, or whether it's just having the conversation, maybe no one wants to
Oh,
succeed them in
I
the
love
family
that you said
business. I
that at
mean,
the end.
again, we talk about communication, but when should this conversation happen? Is it as soon as possible?
I think the precursor to that conversation is like I have two boys, right? 17 and 19, right? Um, it's oddly starting to look like one of them could succeed me, which is crazy. Okay, I'm like, really? You like what I like? Right? It's he's getting into business now and he likes this coaching stuff and but anyway, I'm sharing that with you is the first conversation to have with kids is what do you like?
Yeah, so simple.
It's so simple, right?
It's
What
so
do you like?
simple.
What do you want? What do you want? What do you like? Oh, by the way, here's what I want, and here's what I like, and but don't let that. I don't want to let that. I don't want to get that on you. What do you like? Do you want to be an artist, a ballerina, a businessman, an astronaut? I don't know. What do you want? And you're no stranger to what I do. Here's what I do. And on, Daddy Day, I'll bring you into the office and I'll introduce you to my network and my friends but never in a way to force you into what I do.
Yeah, don't
And
push your
that's the,
values onto the next
yeah, why
generation.
would I do that? I mean, unless there's something I can see is genuinely of interest to you, and I'll nurture that. But that's the word, I'll nurture it. As a parent, I'm dying to get you in.
Well, of course.
Right?
Is it anything better than having your
Exactly.
child take over? I mean, for me, that'd be
Totally.
amazing.
Amazing, right? I mean,
Of
I played
course.
football, right? Soccer. And I remember my Evan was 5. I played competitive, high level soccer. I put him on a soccer team, and all he does is look for daisies to pick. And I am dying inside. I'm like, all the parents are, I'm like, Evan, it's just move. And I whispered and I got a little louder. And then finally I'm like, Evan, move up the back line, move up. And then all the parents are, I'm like, every parent's dying for their kid to love and participate in their thing.
Of course.
I think that's one of the hardest things to do is to rein in.
We'll let it go
Uh,
almost.
let it go. I think that's more blunt way to say it. Let it go and empower my child to discover their own lives with my nurturing guidance, wisdom, blah, blah, blah. And as you said, maybe it turns out you don't like any of what I do. Then, okay, the legacy of my business, my company, my wealth, I will structure in a different way. And I'll still nurture you to be somebody who can handle money.
But
You
how
don't
is,
have to, Mhm.
sorry, I'll go, keep going. So
Yeah.
I've cut you out there.
No, I'm just going to say, you don't have to be in my business to have financial acumen.
Yeah,
They're
no, I get
not,
it. But how then, as a parent, do you need to communicate the fact that the child or the next generation is free to make their own decision?
yeah, yeah.
Because there's almost this subconscious of, oh, I need to follow what mum or dad did because
That's
they're
the
uber
expectation.
successful in their
Yes.
field. And it could be anything from business to acting to sport,
Whatever. Yeah,
whatever it
sports.
may
Yep.
be. And that's almost ingrained in the subconscious
Yeah.
that I've seen. They're like, oh, I have to follow in the footsteps of mum and dad, whether
Yeah.
they like it or not, almost.
Yep.
So how important, therefore, is it as a parent to say,
Yeah.
actually, please do what you genuinely want to do in your life?
Yeah. Here's what I'd say be the most relevant to anybody listening now. Okay. Most people who will listen to this already have kids. They already have money. They're already in the midst of the dilemma or dynamic you just said. I want you to do what I do, or at some level, we all parents, and some parents are great at mitigating it. Others make no bones about it, and they're more forceful about it. Okay. So if anyone's interested in like intervening on that, because they see that ultimately it's not sustainable, the kid will leave the business. The kid will rebel, and that is what happens. Then the thing to do right now, okay, and it comes back to authenticity, Nicholas, is to acknowledge to your children who you have been being is you got to do what I do. That copping to it, coughing it up, acknowledging the force that you've been using unwittingly and deliberately to kind of channel your kid into taking over that they already know and they've been living with for X years. Simply the acknowledging authentically that's who you've been will start to open up a real conversation. Why? Because I'm calling myself out.
Yeah.
And that alone is worth its weight in gold from parent to child in my experience. Because then the kid's like, what? You actually said the thing I know you've been doing, but you're aware of it. You've told me, you've called yourself out. Oh my God, this is now getting like this where I can actually talk to you. That's the beginning. And then, there's a world of conversations to have after that, and, coaching to provide and so on, right? But that's the opening is to call oneself out.
Beautiful. And yeah, like you said, be authentic, be honest, and have those conversations, not once or twice. It's an
Yeah,
ongoing process. What
sure.
there was an individual once, I've forgotten their name now, but they said that children spell love Time, time. And I
Okay.
love that because that resonated quite a lot with me. It's like
Yeah,
how, we've covered it on this podcast where we say we put the importance of spending quality time with your children,
yeah,
spending not just the number of hours that you spend with them, but any time that you spend with them, that you're actually there with them, you're present with
yeah.
your children, and that you set aside some time to be present, to be authentically present with your children, 100%. Park the
Mm,
phone, park the interruptions. You
mm,
are there for
mm,
them because they'll pick up on that.
hmm.
How important is that for,
Yeah,
bringing
yeah.
up the next generation to spend that quality time with them? And it doesn't have to be long, does it?
No, no, and I'm glad where we ended up with time being the emphasis more on quality than time. And I'll tell you, for me, I just based on my work, I travel quite a bit. So when my kids were growing up, I did not anywhere near have as much time as a dad, no, I know normal dads, whatever that is, have with their children, I suspect. I had way less time. But the the time I have with my children, I am deliberate about who I'm being. So quality time isn't just let's play catch, tell me about your day. It includes that. But most of my time, the quote unquote little of it I had with my kids, was spent so transparently, authentically, um, uh, sharing about my vulnerabilities and myself, what I'm accomplishing, what I'm dealing with. I want my kids to learn it's okay to talk about stuff. And it's just really okay. And then of course they wound up telling me their stuff. Why? Because I'm the opening for stuff to be talked about. I'm talking about my stuff. Now, I didn't see a lot of parents talking about their stuff to their kids. It's like I think Scandinavia is the only place on earth that they got no problem talking about sex when their kids are 7, 8, 9, 10, right?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
but it's a paradigm around the world is to that you're not ready for X conversation yet. And in our household, you're ready. Were you born? Good, you're ready.
Wow.
What are you, 3 years old? Okay, good. Let's talk about why your mom and I just had that fight. Yeah, I was righteous and I have things a certain way, and anybody who threatens the way I figured it out, I get antsy about. And I was a jerk with your mom. You're 4 years old, and I just want to own that, and that's what happened. And Aaron and Evan are like, oh, okay. See, it's nothing for them. They're like, oh, I see. See, they grow up with my ownership and my jerkness, but there's not a problem. Like, okay, it's anyway. My point is, it's not ever have that conversation right away. And because most people listening to this may not have done that, start now.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I love you covered the point of the argument, conflict, because conflict is inevitable in any family. Don't care who you are. But how, and it can be actually quite healthy, having conflict as long as you deal with conflict in an open manner, like you mentioned. Oh,
Yeah,
this was the reason why we had the argument. I was being a bit of a jerk. I was a bit emotional.
yeah,
It is what it is. I've now, apologized
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
made up and whatever that story is, just being open about that story.
yeah,
But I see so many families are so scared of conflict that they'll do anything to avoid it to an extent that it's
yeah,
like really
yeah,
inauthentic.
yeah.
Now,
Well, that I
why
think
is there this fear element that surrounds
because
conflict?
you won't like me. You won't like me. See, the in the world of conflict theory, okay, and practice, it's people avoid conflict because A, they don't want to rock the boat and not be liked, okay, and which that starts. See, little kids don't. They got nothing going on about saying, "I want ice cream. I want that. I want that. I want that." They don't care about conflict. They just demand what they want, and they tell you what they don't want. They have no qualms about it. But as this is a little bit part of the ontological model. When you're a teenager, all teenagers start to care about is fitting in and belonging.
Definitely.
They didn't care about it at 3 years old.
No.
Yeah, they're running through the sprinkler naked and they're staring at people and, hey, you're wrinkly. Are you going to die soon? They say all kinds of crazy stuff, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And I'm not talking about you, okay? But but at teenagehood, this new era of development happens where belonging, fitting in, being popular or not rocking the boat shows up as a real concern. So this avoidance of conflict is really starts to amplify during that developmental stage. And so I now would rather keep the peace than say something that could rock the boat and get me kicked out of the tribe. And most people live the legacy of teenagehood for the rest of their lives. So that's one thing. I don't want to get kicked out, you not to like me, be unpopular. The second thing is I don't want to hurt your feelings, which means I hold you as a human being that's so small and tiny that if I say X to you, you will disappear. So people don't see that as an arrogance. But it's a funny thing to say. If you think you're going to hurt somebody's feelings, you're arrogant. Okay. But and if you wind up saying things in a way that does hurt their feelings, you can apologize.
Yeah, of
You really
course.
can do that and you can own it and you can wind up figuring out in the future how to say something that's more digestible. But you can't be a great bike rider if you don't get on the bike.
Yeah. Oh,
And
100%.
then people avoid those direct conversations, so they never get effective at it
Yeah, no, or even worse, they sometimes appease and just say yes to everything because they just want to avoid the conflict.
because it's easier.
Yeah,
But it always bites them in the ass in the
of
end.
course it does. But if you keep saying yes to your children and all their demands, they're just going to demand more. But people don't see that because it's just easy to say, yeah, no problem. I'll give you whatever you
Yeah.
want. I'll
Yeah.
buy
Well,
that
you
thing
see that.
for you.
Well, it's on teams and companies too. Most people say yes, they for the same reasons. My companies I coach fail is because people can't say no.
Yeah, it's a powerful word, no, and a very useful word. I've,
Yeah.
I've had to learn that again the hard way, even running my business, that I have to say no to certain meetings, to certain people,
Yes.
irrespective of whether I will hurt their feelings or I may
Yes.
feel I'm going to miss out because, hey, I got to focus on building this
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
And you've got to make those harsh decisions. It's the power
And
of
I still
no.
deal with no. I still deal with saying no but that's just being real about it. If you're not dealing with saying no, you're not in the game
No, 100%.
because
It's
everyone wants to say yes.
yeah, it's a really powerful word. And if you can't do
Yeah.
it, be honest. No, I can't do it. I
Yeah.
don't have the time. I am busy. Whatever it may be,
Yeah.
just say no. Sounds like one of those anti-drug adverts, doesn't it?
Exactly.
How, and this is really important when it comes to generational wealth. How, as a parent, do we implement appreciation of money to the next generation?
Aha. Yeah. Well, it's hard to transfer appreciation to another.
Oh,
So
clearly.
it's more like what environment can I provide for you so that you discover your own appreciation of money? And handing it to you won't accomplish that.
No, definitely not.
I just was on holidays and I was just a really kind of childhood friend of mine. Um, he just sold his business for a lot of money. Okay. But, I'm visiting him and he's got two awesome children and his kids one kid works at the rowing club making 16 bucks an hour. And I was with him, we had a barbecue, he was talking to me and I just listened to him with his kid and he's like, well, how are you going to pay for that? Okay, well, let me know what you figure out. Click.
Love it.
Now, he's got a few hundred million waiting for that kid later. I mean, or not, but he's remarkable because that child of his is building appreciation for money right now.
Brilliant.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's no other way to get it but to earn your own appreciation.
Yes. Earn it. And I love that word, earn. That
Yeah.
almost meritocracy. Earn the right to work in
Yes,
a family
yes. Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Earn the money in order to establish a good relationship with money.
Yeah.
That's not, it doesn't fall out of the sky or come
Totally.
from a trust fund. Because that can
Yeah.
be exceptionally destructive. What about the having an element of philanthropy once you've got to that level? How important is that to implement within the family dynamic? We see it with a lot of these
Yeah.
billionaire families. They always have these
Yeah.
charitable foundations. But even at a lower level, how important is it to have that sense of philanthropy, that sense of giving back? I mean, you've
I
done it,
think
so clearly it must be important.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it's critical. I mean, it what's money's worthless without it's money is nothing until you and I bring meaning to money. Money's just a thing. It's like a rock. Back before we had dollar bills and e-commerce, it was seashells.
Yeah,
You know that?
yeah, yeah, of course,
Seashells.
yeah.
Okay.
And before that was
It's
bartering.
exactly. So it's I think without having money be something that can make a difference, right? In other words, having a purpose for money, not just having money, and a purpose that has the kind of integrity that making your money and keeping your money and spending your money is inside of a higher purpose. Your money's always at risk. Now, here's a funny thing I'm saying. If you don't have just a really laudable, noble, difference-making purpose for your life and therefore your money's in jeopardy. Now, why am I saying that? Because if you just have money to make money, there's no powerful factor driving you sustainably other than just to keep my money, right? It's But see, companies that have a powerful purpose, for example, Like remember Steve Jobs? Steve
Yes,
Jobs when he, yeah, when his the purpose for Apple was put a ding in the universe.
love
Now,
that.
what the hell does that mean? No, I don't know, but everybody at Apple knows what the hell that means. So the reason to generate money for Apple is to make a legacy difference for humanity, a ding in the universe. So you see the get up and go, the motivation, the chutzpah in Apple is not just to make money, it's to make money to make a difference.
I absolutely love that. Absolutely love, and that message was lost. I mean, you saw that into the financial disaster of 2008, whereby these financial entities were making money for the sake of making money, and no one actually knew what these products were. And soon they found out they're worth nothing, which caused a humongous crash. And like you said, there's no purpose behind the money, and you see that with families. What is the point? Why
What is the
are you
point?
building this huge amount of
Yeah,
wealth? What are you trying to do with it? What is your legacy? What does it mean for your family? What does it mean for the next
yeah,
generation?
yeah.
Um, you know, what is the vision behind the wealth? In a similar
Look, and
way,
I
as
love
as
that.
a corporate entity, the most successful families have the successful, sorry, companies have that vision. Yet you see it with families; they
Yeah,
make all this money, and I coined the phrase, the business of being a family. Yet they have
yeah.
no vision for the
Great.
wealth. They don't know about tomorrow. It's like, well, I'm just going to work and create more money and create more money. But why?
Yeah. Or
What is your why?
philanthropy.
What is the why with your family dynamic?
Yeah, well, going back to philanthropy, even philanthropy is bankrupt if it's just a tax break.
Yeah, of course
I
it is.
mean, it's absolutely. I love the word vision. Yeah. Yeah, what's the vision we have for ourselves, our wealth? And just in my experience, the happiest people, most fulfilled people on the planet, a large part of their vision includes making a difference.
Yeah, no, I agree. 100%. And philanthropy is a core element of that. That's why, we even within Dante, we have a section specifically on philanthropy.
Hmm.
So you can see and measure and create a strategy around your giving. What are you
Yeah.
trying to do? What difference are you trying to make? And by all means have a system to account for it, to make sure as well that the money's being used effectively.
Yes.
Not, because not all charities are great with their
No.
money.
No.
Charities do go bankrupt as
Far
well.
from it. Far from it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's absolutely important to have that piece. So, we've spoken about philanthropy, we've spoken about generational wealth, we've spoken about the tools, and Dante being one of them that combines the financial capital with
Yeah.
the wisdom behind the wealth and the importance of wisdom being transferred to the next generation.
Yes.
Where can people find out about you, Vic? Let's talk a little bit about yourself and your business Unstoppable.
Um, www dot unstoppableconversations with an S.com. That's where we live. And uh, one thing I'm just terrible at is calls to actions and self-promotion. So that's all you get.
You're not enough.
Totally.
Well, let's leave it with this conclusion. What three key tips of advice would you give to families, to wealthy families today that they need to action?
Yeah, really good. Start to have those authentic conversations. Um, and by the way, a lot of wealthy families are a function of a wealthy business, effective business. So what I would say start having those authentic conversations with your kids. Start to find out what interests them. What are they worried about? What are the comparisons they have with themselves with you that limit them? What are your fears about them? Where have you been trying to force them to do something that you want to call yourself out on? And then have those conversations in your business. Because we have a saying in my work with people, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah,
So that's
great saying.
one, that's the first tip, I kind of break the ice and start having these authentic conversations.
So important.
Two, stop being so arrogant and start to include people in your thinking. Okay. People who are willing to tell you the truth. let me say it this way, not tell
Yes.
you what you want to hear, tell you what you need to hear.
Oh, yes. And that's almost a battle against your ego.
Yeah. And it's a paradox because most successful people, at some level, you have to have some ego to carry you through the difficult times. You have to have some
Well,
internal,
no, of course, but don't overly feed that ego by surrounding yourself with yes men.
yes, which is natural because that's the dynamic that people wind up having when you're effective. People kind of bow down to that and don't challenge it because they don't want to not fit in. And it's absolutely, yeah. So start to include other people in your thinking. Um, but that requires a kind of an openness or a willing to go beyond where you and I've been burnt before. Okay. And then the gauge for that would be what I'm calling authenticity plus effectiveness is a good register for somebody worth listening to, in my opinion. Uh, why do things always have to come in threes? Okay, the third thing, I don't know.
Magic
Somebody who's
number.
really, really good looking, somebody who smells good and is good looking. No, what would be a third thing to
Get a world-class coach like yourself, Vic.
yeah, definitely hire me. That's the third thing.
Yeah. And use Dante, of course. It goes without saying.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. Well, there you go. That's the third thing. Only use us. Don't go anywhere else.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
that's number three. Okay.
That's brilliant. Well, listen, Vic,
Yeah.
that was amazing. That went so quick. We've just done literally an hour and a half almost, and it's gone
Yeah.
a blink of an eye. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom with us. And yeah, look forward to continuing our conversations.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity.